Well-known Bible teacher Charles Swindoll said, "On tough days, you gotta have heart. Don't give up whatever you do. Persevere." Those are very wise words to keep in mind, especially when you consider that it is possible to be in God's will, doing exactly what He has called you to do to the best of your ability, and still face extremely difficult situations and circumstances. This is true regardless of what God has called you to do, whether that's to move to a new location or go a different direction in your career, or maybe He's called you to forgive someone who hurt you deeply. Whatever it is, you have heard from God, you know what He's called you to do, and you are doing the best you can to obey Him. But you have met resistance that you never anticipated. Obstacles seem to be everywhere you look, and you have had more setbacks than you can count. It has left you frustrated, overwhelmed, and exhausted. Truth be told, you've been tempted to quit. I know what that feels like. See, the problem is you are focused on the obstacles and your own ability to overcome them. You don't have to stay stuck in that place, my friend. I am going to give you a mindset shift to move you forward. You ready? If God calls you to it, He will equip you for it. He's promised to. Philippians 4:13 tells us, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." There are two powerful reminders in this mindset shift. And the first one is, I can do all things through Christ. I can do what God's called me to do. It's not impossible, or He wouldn't have told me to do it. But it's through Christ. He's my source. See, it's not about you being smart enough, good enough, having enough. It's not about what you have, but it's trusting that God will give you what you need when you need it. The second powerful mindset shift is to remember how you're going to get from point A to point B. It is through Christ who strengthens me. See, it's not about you having enough strength in of yourself. It's about leaning in and trusting that as you put one foot in front of the other, God's grace will be there to meet you, and He will strengthen you to do what He's called you to do. I learned a lot about perseverance through running, and I'll never forget my first race. It was at an area high school at dusk, and the area throughout the residential portion of this race was not well marked, and I ended up deviating from the course and running an extra half a mile or so. Well, this was a big deal for me because when I trained, I only went the required distance. So in my mind, I'm thinking, am I going to be able to finish this race? Well, I had taken quitting as out of the picture. It wasn't an option for me. So I was so relieved when I saw the track back in sight. It was not only the starting point for this race, but the finishing point. So as I entered the gates, the first thing I saw on the track was my husband and my children cheering me on. So I went ahead and I opened up my stride and I started to sprint. For some reason in my mind, I had thought that the starting line was also the finish line. So when I crossed over that line, I stopped and I hung my head at my knees. I started sucking in air, but celebrating. I wish that Chariots of Fire was playing in my headphones at that moment because I finished the race and I was celebrating. Well, that celebration came to a very abrupt end when I heard my children's voices from behind saying, "Mommy, the finish line is over here." Stood up, turned around. Sure enough, there was a ginormous, life-sized clock lit up in the black sky, counting down the time. Two things went through my mind. Number one, how on earth did I miss a ginormous, life-sized clock lit up in the night sky? Number two, how on earth am I going to get there? I have nothing left in me. I crossed my finish line that I had in my head, and with extra distance, mind you, I gave my all. I don't have it in me, and I had to choose in that moment to put one foot in front of the other. My legs were jello, my lungs were on fire, but as I did, I verbally said the words out loud. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I prayed, God, give me the strength to finish this race. What one thing has God called you to do that has been way more difficult than you ever anticipated? And truth be told, you've been tempted to quit. Apply this mindset and remind yourself, if God called you to it, He will equip you for it. Have Philippians 4:13 at the forefront of your mind as you persevere. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.